Welcome to Authentic Influence. This is Anthony Chansamove from Simple Creative Marketing, and today we are talking about marketing without money. Marketing without money. That's the topic, but there's a lot more to it than that. And to really share insight into how this works, I've invited my good friend Therese Tarlinton to come and share with you just her journey and her new book, which is actually called Swap: Marketing Without Money. And Therese is passionate about marketing partnerships, and she created a startup that grew to a business in 5 countries, manufacturing for Jeep, Sesame Street, and United Colors of Benetton, using this strategy. So after selling that company, she now works with the big brands, creating campaigns that collaborate with other businesses, with a focus on delighting their mutual customers, something all our listeners, I'm sure, are aware of and want to do. So Therese has helped charities raise funds, a software company get seed funding, been an ambassador for LG Electronics, and now works with CSR, creating partnerships with interior designers, tradies, and even The Block, which is a popular TV show here in Australia, for all our foreign international listeners. Therese, let's bring her on. There we go. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, where are you dialing in from, for those of us who are wondering?
Sure. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and it's actually not raining. It has been for many, many weeks, so it's a dry day, which I'm very thankful for.
So am I. I'm very grateful. It's been my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like I've experienced the monsoon in Asia, so I've been in Laos when it rained for months, and so here, we're kind of getting a taste of what that looks like, and already, we hate it. It's like, oh my gosh, bring the sun. We need to get out and walk and do our daily walk around the bay and these sort of things, and those things we take for granted, right? How's it been for you and the family?
Absolutely. I think that Sydney's so known for, my husband's always out rowing. My son's a great runner. Like, all of us are always outside. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful city. So to kind of not have that opportunity to actually be out walking or rowing or running or whatever you're doing, it's kind of, it affects you.
Are you one of those affected by seasonal, what's it called? Seasonal something syndrome or whatever, disorder, sad, seasonal? Yeah.
I think that I really need to get outside every day, especially during COVID when we've all been working from home. And I think that I actually was getting up every morning and exercising, and that was effectively my transit to work. And then once I'd finished work, before I, went upstairs to my kitchen, and I'd actually go for another walk, and that was like almost my transit leaving work and coming home, because I just needed that break there, that separation, and to get outside. So yeah, I think it definitely affects your mood.
That reminds me of just when I was back in my old corporate days, and I would catch a train in. It used to take me an hour from sort of southwest Sydney into the city, and I used to value that time so much because I would read. This was long before podcasts. If there were podcasts, I would listen to them. But I had my Walkman. You remember those?
Yes.
Yeah, and you get into your tunes and whatever else. And like I think a lot of our sort of younger generations won't ever even have that happen in their lifetime. Like, imagine that as a what's going on with technology today and the way we're living. Fantastic. Okay, let's jump into your sort of your background. I was reading through the copy of the book, your book that you shared with me. Thank you for that. And I was just sort of caught by the story of how you even got into the whole stroller business. Do you mind sharing, sort of just going back to that time and what you were doing then, and how you first really went into the world of partnerships and how that began for you?
Yeah, of course. So I started out like, a lot of other people, went to uni, did marketing, ended up in a big corporate, starting my career. And that was fantastic. And that gave me a really, really good insight into branding and the importance of a brand and a position and a reputation and what it means to be known. But I also had a bit of a spark. I just was like, I really want to do my own thing as well. And it was on a trip to America, and I saw a Jeep stroller. So Jeep is in the car brand, the four-wheel drive brand. And in America, they actually had Jeep strollers, and they had big pump-up tires, and it had a little like console for the baby with a horn and a steering wheel, and so the baby could interact and drive the Jeep. And I thought, at that stage, I didn't have children or anything. I didn't really know that space, but I recognized it as, wow, that's like kind of cool. They've combined a brand, with a baby, and it's really aspirational for the parent. And so, because I was young and had no fear, I approached the manufacturer of Jeep baby products, and I said, "Hey, I would love to bring these to Australia." And they said, "Yeah, let's have a conversation." And so I actually came home, and I looked at the brand, looked at what was in the marketplace, looked at what was for parents. And at that stage, strollers were, Mickey Mouse, and Baby Cookie Monster. Like, it was the only brands that were on strollers were appealing to the baby, not to the parents. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is an opportunity to actually tap into, these parents who are, empowered career, women, and actually love their brands, tapping into the dad market where they really want to be part of this journey as well. And so I got some samples and brought them to Australia, and it went off like a rocket, which was fantastic. So I took them to a trade show and actually to see if they could get some orders, and I did. I pretty much sold hundreds of strollers just on that weekend. And I thought, okay, this is it. And so I jumped off my, out of my corporate cubicle and into my own business. And it was, I guess, that thing where I saw an opportunity and I thought, look, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can, sell them at the markets if this doesn't work, but, I've got to try. And the first company that I approached was actually Jeep, as in the vehicle, cars in head office. And I said, hey, I'm bringing these strollers to Australia. I just want to let you know, if there's any way that we can work together. And the PR manager at Jeep actually said, look, I'm going on maternity leave in like a month, but I love this. This is fantastic. How about I'll do your PR for you and you give me the baby products? And I said, great, done deal. Love to do that. And she got Jeep baby strollers in everything from the Financial Review to every newspaper, every baby magazine, but also the men's magazines as well, marketing magazines. And so it literally was exposed. It got a lot of exposure really quickly. And so that was my first partnership. And then that exposure got me a meeting with Target, and the CEO at that time had seen it in the Financial Review and was like, I want to be the first people with these strollers in Australia. And so that became my next one. And then because of that, then Huggies actually contacted me and said, hey, we'd love to do a competition and give away a Jeep for mother and baby. So we want the car and we want some strollers to give away. And I said, fantastic. And they put my strollers on the flyers and the stickers on the boxes, so the point of sale, in every Coles nationally for 3 months. So that was about the credibility and elevating my brand even more. So that was my real beginning on how partnerships can, do amazing things for a small business, where you can actually borrow the credibility of other companies to help you, really catapult yourself into your industry.
That's really amazing. And I just wanted to ask you, during that time, how big was your team? Because one of these misconceptions that we have as small business owners is, to play in the big leagues with Jeep and these big brands, we need to have a 20-person marketing team and PR and all these things, and but you weren't that, right? So what were you when you were going through that process?
I was by myself in my second bedroom. And then as I started, I actually hired a mum who lived in my street, whose, kids went to the local primary school. And so she worked from, 9 till 3, 3 days a week to kind of give me a hand as well. So it was just me. It was just me. And so that was, you can do it. And even, as the story goes, I actually was able to get the license for United Colours of Benetton.
Mm.
And that was when I was into my business journey, and I actually had a staff, but in saying that, there was a staff of 4, so still very, very small. And we went up to tender against huge companies all around the world for the Benetton license. And at one stage, I thought, look, there's not any point. I'm dealing with companies who are like $1 billion company. And I'm just in Australia. They're very small team. There's just no point. And I nearly gave up. And then I thought, you know what? I have to try. If you try and you fail, no problem. Never try. You'll always wonder. And so I got really granular about what it felt like as a young mum to, have an extension of her lifestyle and her imaging, and Benetton could deliver that for these young mums. And I was up against big corporates that were quite traditional and quite top heavy, and were run by gentlemen that had been in the industry for a really long time, but were more grandparent age than a young mum age, which I was. And so that ability to really focus down and say, look, yes, I'm small, but I know your brand. I can tell your story. I am your customer, and I know what other people will want out of this. I know how to tell your story in a really compelling way. And that's what got us over the line. We won Benetton, and that allowed me to start selling all over the world. And again, that was, 4 people in a tiny little office in Gladesville in Sydney. So it is absolutely not the domain of, multi-billion dollar listed companies. It's something that a small business can absolutely do.
Yeah, there's something you say in your book, and you repeat the message, which is that big business wants to help a small business. Like that they're actually looking for, opportunity, looking for something a way to differentiate. They're looking for something that's nimble, that you can move faster, as per, just like what you're sharing with this story here. That you can do things with a 4-person company or a 5-person team that someone with a 100-person team can't do. Like it's just a lot of it's red tape. A lot of it's we got to go through multiple levels of approval. I think there's at that stage of business, with a large corporate in a town, and I've come from that world as well. I remember just it will take us 6 months just to get an approval sometimes. Because it's like, oh, we have to consider the brand, what's the brand, and they take that very seriously, and I get it, and it's important. At the same time, it can also mean that it creates the door for smaller businesses, smaller brands to jump in there and go, hey, actually, like you say, we know your market. We know, I'm look at me, I'm a mum, or I'm a mum to be, I'm part of the audience. I know exactly how to solve that particular problem, or how what your buyer wants. And I think that's so critical in your story, and thank you for sharing that. Now, as the story goes on, you had the United Colours of Beneton partnership, and then you ended up moving towards actually selling that business. What was the decision behind that, and why did you decide to move on from that?
Sure. So at that time, I had been doing it for quite a while. I had actually, in that journey, I'd also had 2 children of my own. They were, little. They were kind of on that transition to starting school. And for me, with Benetton and Jeep, they really wanted me to spend about 6 months of the year in Italy and in Europe, actually putting all the distribution partners together for the baby range. And just as a mum with two tiny kids, and not any family around, that was just something that I couldn't do. And so I decided that I was, really super proud of how far I'd come, and I could let somebody else take the baton, and run with it, and somebody that could be overseas a lot of the time. And even that selling process was I actually sold it to my very first customer. So at that stage, Babies Galore was a chain of baby stores that were in Australia, and that got bought out by Mothercare, which is a very large UK brand of baby stores. And so that company, which was Babies Galore, they actually bought my company. And so, but actually going through that process and identifying all the value in the business. And a lot of that value was the great relationships that we had built, and the relationships with distributors, relationships with retailers, with merchandisers, their great marketing that we knew. And so we were able to actually really leverage that with media and ambassadors. So all of these great things that we built because of the partnerships that we had created that added value to the sale price of that business.
Let me just jump back in here. I'm trying to work out how to do this. Okay, here we go. I just love that. I'm going to repeat what you said there. The value was in the great relationships that we had built, and I think that's something that many small business owners might skip or not realize, because we kind of typically what I hear is it's your list, it's the audience you've built. That's that's a key asset for the business, and when you're selling a business, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, how many customers do you have, right? And or whatever it might be. But when you factor in the relationships that you had built and these strategic partnerships, distribution deals, these sort of things, it becomes much more, as you say, valuable to the prospective buyer or the acquirer of the company. I'm curious how you even navigated that process of selling the business. Like it's the first time you've done this, I imagine. So did you get some coaching around that, or how did you was it a partnership that led to just the process of finding selling the business?
Sure. For me, it was, I did get a business broker to, I guess, help me identify all the assets. And that was even, I think as a small business owner, you do what you do, and you do it as hard as you possibly can. And sometimes you don't have that helicopter view. You're like in the weeds, you're getting the job done every single day. And so to actually be able to step back and understand where the value was. And it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't just in a database. It was actually around, how to get a product through a safety standard to bring a product into Australia. All the logistics and shipping and importing of products from all over the world. Because at that stage I was manufacturing, but I also grabbed and was a distributor for all the award-winning products around the world, because I had deals with Target and Big W and Toys R Us. So while I was selling, my products into Target, I was like, well, I may as well try to sell other people's products into Target as well. So again, it's the within a business, even if they're not structured, you have procedures and you have amazing knowledge. And so to actually package that up, the 4-hour work week and the Blue Ocean strategy are kind of two books around that time that were like absolutely out there. And I guess the key message in all of those was about how could you create a business where you could, go on holidays or for 3 months and the business would run. And within that context, it was about how could you build a business that could run by itself. And the value of a business running by itself also means that somebody else can buy it because it's not dependent on you. So at that stage, I really looked at putting systems and procedures in place for absolutely everything so that somebody could walk in and pick up that procedure and actually know how to do it. And that is obviously the mechanics of how to do it, but also the relationships, who to reach out to. If you get that stuck at this point, this is the person that you would call. If you get stuck at another point, this is the kind of email, this is the kind of data that you need. This is the backup information that you provide to make sure you get out of customs as quickly as possible. So the learnings that you have along the way, it's not just, factual in terms of importing a product, go through customs, put it in a warehouse. It's like all the things that might go wrong, or you need to think about, or what if something's damaged and do you need to take photos of it? And so all the intricacies of your procedure is the value that you have. And so for somebody else to be able to actually pick up those procedures and not just know the 1, 2, 3, but to actually know the plan B and the plan C and what you actually need, and to have all that stored really, really factually with examples and everything else was a huge, asset for the company when I sold it.
Absolutely. I like to think of it as you're handing over, if you were to hand over your house to a new buyer, right, and you were moving out, and there were certain things you'd been living in it for 10 years, and there were certain things about just the property, and when it rains, these things happen, when these things happen, and you want the person to know, right, just be aware these things probably need some repair, or these things that this is how it works, and that neighbor across the road does these certain things at certain times of the year, and these things about, right? And that's what you're doing with the business. You're saying, hey, here's the manual or the guiding. Yeah, like you're literally handing over a manual that says, okay, this is how you operate it, and keep it going the way it is. And then they can add their own flavor to it, and they can do other things to improve it, of course. But you might even have suggestions on how to do that, right? So, and that's all super valuable. I love it. Were you going to add something to that?
I was just going to say, I know when I sold a house at one stage, I actually, for the person who bought it, I actually put together a folder, and I put together a little folder of like all the neighbors, what their kids' names were, what number they lived at. I put like what night the bins went out. I actually put like where they could get the best Thai, the best Italian, and the best Chinese. And it was almost like a little housewarming gift. I was like, here's everything that you need to know about this area. Here's the parks. This one's got a great, swing, and this one's got a great bike track. And because I knew they had kids, so I guess it was just actually this kind of the generosity of information, not just the information that you absolutely need, but how you can really slot into that business or that house or that school or whatever it is, and feel nurtured and feel invited, and actually have a little bit of the lay of the land, so you know what you're doing. So for me, that is a brilliant analogy. It's just like that. So I wanted to hand over to the business not just the keys, but actually any single thing I could possibly do. And even of course there was a handover, of course, but I didn't just go, hey, Jack, this is Bill. I was like, hey, Jack loves water skiing, and, blah, blah, blah. And he's got kids about the same age as you, and actually tried to find some common ground, even with the introduction. So again, it wasn't just a introduction, very factual. It was actually, here's how you're both going to work together, and actually here's some points that you'll probably have in common that you can actually talk not just about work but about other stuff to actually build that relationship.
Absolutely. Like, to me, that just speaks to your desire and caring for the success of the next person or the next company, whoever you're handing it over to. And I think that speaks a lot to just the way you approach life and business, and that's super valuable, right? Like that, to me, is what I'd be looking for. And what came to mind was the last time my wife and I booked an Airbnb, and we've had really great experiences and we've had terrible experiences, right? And what was the difference? The difference was how much care the property owner or the person who was hosting put into sharing all those little tidbits, like you said, like where's the best restaurants, where's the nicest beaches and whatever it is, and how do we get there, and really putting themselves into the mind of the next person coming in and going, okay, if I was a newbie in this area, rather than spend the whole day trying to familiarize, why don't I just give them the fast track and say, here's 3 cafes you really should check out, and this is Bill the owner, and this is Margaret, and these sort of things, and that's just amazing, right? Yeah, love it. Okay, let's get into sort of the logistics or the breaking down partnerships. In the book, you talk about 3 different types of marketing partnerships. Can you elaborate on those?
Yeah, of course. So my experience has been really vast. So as I said, I had a kind of licensing experience. I've also had kind of TV experience. But really when you break it down, you can do great partnerships with product. And when I say product, that can also be a service, but it's essentially, what you sell. You're using what you sell to create a partnership. The second one is actually digital partnerships, where, these are really, they're fast, they're easy. It's a generosity of information. So just like we're doing a podcast now, it could also be a written article. It could be, a blog. It could be it could be a competition. But, something that is, digital and really easy to actually merge some audiences together. And the third one is an in-person experience. So something where you've actually got a group of people and you can use all their senses. You can really go down deep and create something that is memorable, not just because of what they heard, but because of how they felt and what they see and the experience that they had in person. So they're the 3 main ones. And then off that, there's obviously lots and lots of ways you can do a product or a digital or an in-person experience using brand partnerships.
So let's recap. We got product, digital, and in-person. I love the 3. I've had experiences with all the 3 in different aspects and different companies. To me, they speak to different levels of partnership as well, because obviously it takes more time and investment and energy, even costs to do an in-person, if you were to hold a conference together, versus doing a quick, an email swap or a webinar together or a podcast like we're doing here. I love the giveaways. I think that's one that, particularly for services businesses, we tend to forget about those. Like we like in my mind, when I'm hearing about it on the radio and they're doing giveaways all the time, I always think about, oh yeah, but I don't have a product. And I think, to your point, yes, you do, because you have a digital product and you have, whether it's your consulting, whether it's your, you've got a book, you've got these different assets you can put out there. I think I'm so traditionally minded that, and I think others have this problem as well. We think, oh, but I don't have a stroller. I don't have, T-shirts I can give to people. And so I like this. Yeah, your thoughts on how do you, when you're a services business, and that's the majority of our audience here. And so we've got services business, and we've also got SaaS companies, right? So what do you do when you don't have a digital product? A physical product that you can give as in terms of in a partnership?
For sure. So there's a business that kind of springs to mind just because I think it's just, super clever. So it's called Blooming Keepsakes. So it's a Melbourne company. And what they realized was that florists provided obviously beautiful bouquets to people for memorable days of their life, like their wedding, might be an anniversary, might be a significant birthday, things like that. And so, and their service was to actually create a, like a dome or a rectangle where they essentially dried flowers. So they had it for a long time. And so that's a service. That's a service that they actually provided, but it was in combination with a product. So what are they, who are your customers and what are they actually doing, before you or after you that you could contribute to? Another example for is in terms of I have a great friend, Jono Fleming, who is an interior designer. So he obviously has a service. That is what he does. He does partnerships with other great brands that are products in terms of at the moment, he has it's called a residence at Globe West, which is a beautiful furniture manufacturer. And so for that furniture manufacturer, he is creating content. So he is creating he goes into their stores and you can be with Jono and actually go around the store and he can help you, choose the right pieces. He actually has also webinars about how to style a dining room table, how to create a really welcoming lounge, like all of these things that he's created. And then also he creates content, as in written content about that he actually uses and sends out to both of them send out to media. So it's actually putting the credibility of an interior designer with a furniture brand to media. And media, obviously, they love a story where it's more than one brand because it's not a sales spiel. It's not just a story from a company, trying to sell a product. So they're, really beautiful ways where you as a service company can actually look at another company that perhaps has a product where together, so when you look at Blooming Keepsakes, the florist was able to offer, not only can I make you this beautiful bouquet for your wedding, but I can actually help you keep it forever. Great idea. Like the customer is the winner. And again, like if I'm the homeowner, and I'm not sure about, what the trends are or whether I should, get a 2.5 or a 3-seater and what fabric I should get and because of my dog or my kids or whatever, to actually have the value of somebody who has that knowledge, that interior designer, coupled with, the furniture. Again, the customer is the ultimate winner. So these are where you start to really bring in the power of partnerships where you can pool with somebody else and create a better experience for the customer than they would have had just by dealing with you or just by dealing with the other company individually.
That's so powerful, and it just reminds me of the value of knowledge, and that knowledge is an asset, because you talked about even in the example of an interior designer providing training or advice around how do you use the furniture, or what furniture should go where, or how do you style your living room versus your kitchen, whatever it may be. And a lot of us who aren't expert in that field, we want that information. We want to know, well, if I love the piece, but how do I make sure it actually looks great when I put it in the lobby, right? Like these sort of things. It's so cool. Now, on the topic of assets, Therese, you say there are 5 important assets that your business can leverage. That doesn't include your social following. So what are those assets?
Yeah, look, for me, there's a lot more than 5.
Wow.
So when I work with small brands, because that's what I absolutely love to do, the first question that they always say, I don't know if I can do a partnership. Like, what have I got that I could use? And I was like, you've got loads. And so I actually sat down and I've got a list of 103 assets you've probably got in your business that you've maybe forgotten about, or you haven't even realized that you could use to do a partnership. And when you look at that, it's massive. And as I said, so when we talked about, we're selling the business and it wasn't just the procedure, it wasn't just the physical product that you sold, it was your knowledge of getting it through a safety standard or importing it into the country or the actual. And so for me, it's definitely it. So even looking at social, for example, I do partnerships all the time with people who have almost no social following. And it's because they are really, really credible and they're trustworthy and they can actually add amazing value. And so that is around looking at, what have you what are you able to do in terms of your ability? So can you write easily? Are you able to do a podcast and use your speech? Could you use your speech on stage? How could you use what you do? So at CSR, so CSR is a building company and makes building products like bricks and gyprock and insulation. I'm always looking for other B2B companies. I'm always looking for tradies or builders or architects to actually work with, to put our brands together and again, talk about the outcome, talk about the problem that was solved. And so this is around this. So actually I have, the bit of the freebie at the end is actually I'm giving you the kind of the videos, which are 103 assets that you have in your business.
Love it. Yeah.
So it's way more than 5, but obviously the main 5 are obviously, your product. It's about you as the leader in the business. It's also about the people, so your sales team, your merchandisers, the people who are actually talking to your customers. It's about your distribution and so your stockers. Your stockers are your number one partners. They're your original partners and how you actually support them. It's about your media, your awards. So it's using everything that you've got in your toolbox. And I guess just on that's the difference between marketing partnerships and influencer marketing. So, and influencer marketing, amazing, right? Like absolutely perfect. I guess I kind of talk about like influencer marketing is mostly where you as a company deal with a person and that person has an audience. So that might be someone who has an Instagram following that has your ideal customer. It could be that they have a podcast and you're in B2B, but they have, one thing that they're really, really strong at. Whereas in a marketing partnership, when you're working with another brand, that brand has a whole lot of vehicles to communicate with your customer. So it's not just about social. It's not just about their website, which they could use as well. It could actually be their location. And that might be an office, that might be a showroom, that might be a restaurant, that might be the boxes that leave, whether they are a shopping destination for e-commerce or whether it's a pizza box that leaves that restaurant. So, what are all that? So when you do a partnership marketing with another brand, so a brand to brand collaboration, it is about you as a brand using everything that you can, all the mediums that you have at your disposal to actually communicate that value to your mutual customer. So that might be that you might have an event and you actually might have a podcast and you might put flyers in the boxes that leave your warehouse. You might use SMS and their phone numbers. So it's not just, it's not just one channel. A brand has many communication channels and it's about tapping into all of those. And when you do a brand partnership, the ultimate aim is to literally blow your customer's mind, right? That is the goal. Partnership marketing is not a bartering system. It's not, I trade you one email for 2 posts. That is not how this works. Great, memorable, amazing partnerships that move the needle are about 2 brands coming together and saying, what could we do that would blow our mutual customer's mind? And using everything in your toolkit to actually make sure that message hits that customer in a way that's going to make them move and propel them to, be part of this experience and remember it.
I'm on board.
Do you believe?
Now, I believe, and because I've seen it and I've experienced it when I was working with Hub Australia, one of Australia's largest co-working brands, and we did events with multiple partners. We had obviously they had the venue, so we had the venue, we were the venue partner, and then we had someone would bring product, and then we would have someone else who would bring maybe they had celebrity or brand, or they had some other aspect to it, or they brought the audience, right? So we were trying to reach. I remember we did a brand partnership with what are they called? Class Pass. So they're an app that you book, yoga, and you book all these classes through their app. And so we did an activation with them. We actually went to Hyde Park, and they listed the event and said, hey, this is a partnership with Hub, and we're gonna. We sent all our members from the co-working space over into the park, and we did a workout with there, and they brought the personal trainers, which was another brand, and so it was a three-way partnership, and that worked really well. And from that, we got media, because we then had all these assets and videos and things that we could put all on our socials and through our channels. So I can see how something like that would work. Now, being that we're in the world of marketing, this is a common question: how do we track them and measure the ROI of these partnerships? How do we know that it's working for increasing, whether it's attention or revenue or whatever it may be? How do you approach that, Therese, and how do you advise small businesses to make sure that, whether, even if you get a PR, an opportunity to be on national media, how do you make sure that that actually is leading to your goal, which is to grow your business?
For sure. Okay, so ROI is obviously something that you need to measure, because you need to make sure it's worth it. You could love a brand, you could love their values, you could have the same objectives, but you could also just go to dinner with them. Let's be real. So it's not about being friends with a brand. It's actually about, like, what are you going to do? So in terms of that ROI, I always say that when you go towards a partnership, literally keep track of every single thing. So keep track of every time they have mentioned you in social, keep track of the emails, obviously unique links on emails. You can obviously look at the numbers on social. These are obviously really, really simple things. But in terms of, it could, as I said, there's still an avenue for, flyers in boxes. During COVID, I actually got like a brand called Open Table, which is like a HelloFresh. It's a meal delivery service. And in there was actually a flyer for Reading Eggs, which is a online primary school kid course to help them do reading and basic school activities, but in a really fun, interactive way with music and colors and everything else. And so when you look at that, it was actually during COVID, lots and lots of families were just bored with their own cooking. They couldn't go out to restaurants, and then they also had their kids at home from school, and they were having that guilt of, I'm trying to do my job, but I actually need to do homeschooling, and is my child getting enough? And so I thought that was a really, really, really clever way. So as a customer, when I opened my box and I got out my zucchinis and my potatoes to make a delicious meal for my family, I also pulled out a flyer about how I could, get Reading Eggs, into my house to support the children, while they were being homeschooled. Now my kids are a bit bigger, so it didn't land. But and of course they had, the first month free with a unique code. So it's really about, like, how can you track it? Now, some things absolutely you can't track, right? You just have to look at your sales, and you don't know if they're related. So as I said, like when the block is on, then as a brand, I have many brands on the block. Now, we know that when you're building a house, you don't build it next week. It takes a lot of planning. So we know that there's at least a 6-month lag before we'll actually see those sales. Could be 12 months sometimes. So you need to, I guess, know within your own buying cycle and your ecosystem, how long does that lead usually take to come through fruition? And also within that sales process, what are you actually trying to do? So in your partnership, are you actually just trying to get a trial? Are you trying to get a phone call? Like, are you trying to actually just connect with that customer? Are you trying to just get them to read one piece of content, and so you can actually have them on your database? So it's really about, like, when you set out your partnership objective, to be really clear on what am I trying to get done? Is this just about credibility? So am I, as a small business, I want to be part of get media on Koshi's Business Builders, or actually so Optus do an amazing job of profiling service-based businesses. Like, they have a business connections area within their website, and every single article is about small businesses, what the challenges that they're facing, and how one of their customers has overcome that challenge. Now, you as a business, you're now an Optus partner that's seen on their website, that's been exposed to hundreds and thousands of their customers as well. So that credibility, can you measure that credibility? Well, in terms of your branding, where are you? If that allows you to actually put that on your pitch pack and actually allows you to get that opportunity, so get that, maybe that sales presentation, to get in front of those people that you might normally not have got in front of if you didn't have that credibility. Or it could be about, as you said, about reach. And so therefore that reach, what is that reach getting you? So is it about growing your social following? Is it about growing your database? Is it about getting people signed up to an event? Is it about getting people signed up in terms of a sales call? So be really clear when you set out about what are you actually trying to get done. Be really clear with your partner as well, because obviously they will have an objective. And so, as I said, theirs might be about credibility to partner with you, and yours might be about growing a database. So you can have two different objectives, and it's just how you marry them together to create a great experience for the customer. So, of course, use all your unique tracking. Make sure that you've got an offer that has a unique link. So use everything that you can to measure it, but then also, it might not be a direct link. It might actually be about the buzz that was created around your industry and around you and around people actually contacting you. And that might not be your customer, but it actually might be another supplier. It might be you get 5 new stockers. It might be that you actually, someone from overseas contacts you and wants to have a conversation. So be open to, I guess I'll call it the overflow, in terms of you go into it saying, okay, this is what I'm trying to get done. I want, to increase my database, or I want to do this. But actually, what usually happens is there's an abundance of other things that you get out of a partnership. And honestly, from my point of view, the biggest value of a partnership is it's really sometimes quite lonely doing everything by yourself as an entrepreneur. And so actually being with another brand and brainstorming and being in the bunker together and getting things done and being able to say, oh my gosh, look what happened today. And I've been able to get this. And what did you get? And oh my gosh, I've just had another idea of how we could work together. Hey, I just had a call from this customer. Do you want me to introduce you to? And so it's the generosity of actually working together, and what you get out of it is abundance. And you probably get a great mate as well. You're not doing it for friends, of course. We've all got enough friends. I'm not saying that, but it's just a camaraderie. Somebody else, similar to you, is in a similar situation. And together you've got two really motivated people who just want a great experience for the customer, and just, want to be able to grow in the process. And that's a really strong bond that hasn't got an ROI, but that's invaluable.
So much gold in that. So let me just unpack, because my brain's going, a million ideas. But one, the generosity, just that message I 100% resonate with. And from the first day I met you, when we were going through the Dent program, this person is about, and I'm also about that. And therefore I felt an affiliation to you. And I just love that you kind of drive everything with two questions. One is, what's the ultimate experience we can create for the customer, so they walk away going, yes, love it, it's amazing. And secondly, how do we do that for the partner as well? Because partners. And you're right, business can be lonely, and it can be, certainly if you're a solo entrepreneur or you're a small business, it's, you know, you kind of miss. Like I've been sitting here thinking for the past couple of weeks, like, oh my God, I miss being in corporate, because you could literally have, you know, 10 people you can walk up to each day and just have a coffee with. and it's, you know, we take that for granted, right? Like when you're working from home and you're on your own, or maybe your partner, your spouse is your partner and whatever, but having someone to bat with, you know, when you go into, I don't like to call business war, but when you go into, you know, trying to grow your vision and your mission together, and when you're aligned, I think that's a key part of all the work you've done has been, where's the alignment in values, right? Obviously, you're going to choose United Colors of Benetton versus maybe some other company that has a massive brand but is polluting the planet and doesn't care about kids, right? Like, it's not going to work. And so that's a huge part. We're going to wrap up. We could go on for hours, but I just wanted to remind people to check out Therese's book. It's called Swap, Marketing Without Money. It's available on Kindle, Amazon, all those things. You can also go to theresetarlinton.com. I've got it on the screen if you're watching the replay here. Therese, for those listening to this going, love all of everything you've shared, the stories, the examples, your journey, but how do I go about, like, what are the steps I need to take to actually work with a brand? How do I actually go about and get my first partnership or my next big partnership? Can you take us through that in a high level? Well, obviously, we can't go through all the details. Yeah. Get the book; it's in there. But if you can just walk us through sort of what are the steps to building those great sought after brand partners.
Yes. So the first step is to really rediscover your assets. So understand everything that you've got that is of value that you could use to do a partnership. The second one is to evaluate your objectives. So really just understand, what am I, I could just go out to dinner with this person, have a great old chat, but actually what am I trying to get done with this other brand so how am I going to grow? What is your metric? What are you trying to get done? The third one is how to connect with the right people and really explore the possibilities. I always say, absolutely reach out with an idea to a company. That might not be the idea that you actually use, but it is the generosity of actually saying, look, I would love to work with you. Here's just one idea I've got. And then actually working together to explore the right fit and what are you actually going to do. The fourth one is to implement whatever the partnership that you're trying to doing, but to over-deliver in terms of their expectations, over-deliver in terms of just generosity of spirit and connect and letting them, share that journey. So when you get that little milestone where you might have just got a new customer, let them know, let them share in their joy. And that is, again, about just over and delivering, just being generous. The fifth one is to position and to extend your reach. So what I mean by that is, obviously you're doing a partnership with one brand, but how can you pull apart that partnership and actually extend it into your industry? How can you tell your colleagues and the other people in your industry about it? How can you involve your stockists and your retailers or your merchandisers? And how can you involve media? All of these individual people would love to be part of this partnership. Just share the joy. And the last one is to evolve, which is really about just demonstrating the success that you've had back to your partner. It is about just building on that success. And again, from an objective point of view, it might have been to grow your database. But actually what you're finding is that within the comments that have come out of this partnership, you might have 3 new product ideas that have come out of this. So a really great thing to demonstrate value back to the partner about how they were so clever to actually combine with you and do this partnership, and actually build an advocate, get them to give you a testimonial about what amazing partner you are, and to turn your taxi light on, actually talk about to other brands how you love doing partnerships, have a partnership page on your website. So those 6 are a recipe and
I love it.
RECIPE.
Let's quickly recap. So, recipe the power for the recipe for powerful partnership. You start with R, which is rediscover. So, know your business worth and your assets, what you can leverage. We then evaluate, which is the E, the objectives you want to achieve, and also the objectives the partner might want to achieve as well, which is important. C is connect, find the right partners, and explore those possibilities. I is to implement, do the deal, and over deliver on expectations. I love the way you put that out there. P is to position, and the key message here is to extend your reach to your industry, to stockers, to media, and they're all partnerships as well, right? Like when you're talking about this, you're like, yeah, who are the other partners we can bring to the party? And that's the way I like to think about that. And then finally, the last E is to evolve and demonstrate and be success, right? Partners want to know that whatever you've done together actually worked, and then you go back to them and say, thank you for being, for partnering with us, and here were the results. Here's what's different. Here's what's new. Here's what I think we can do next time. And so you kind of have that opportunity to recreate magic together. Therese, amazing. I love how you've come up with the acronym, how you've put it all together. I think we've learned a few things from the KPI guys potentially here. Couple of questions I want to wrap up with. Just one is you being just such a great marketing strategist. You've done work on both sides, small business, and also you've been with the big brands. What's been a key resource for you, whether it's a book, a podcast, or training that's really helped you understand how to do marketing really well?
I think it is, look, for me, I'm a podcast junkie. I'm on podcasts every single day. I think and also it's around just opening your mind and kind of your spirit, being brave. I think that the power of just actually reaching out to other people and saying, hey, I've got an idea and I'd love to actually work with you. Just sit in that for a second and imagine today that a company reached out to you and said, I talk about your brand all the time to my customers, and I'd really love to work with you. They chose you above thousands of other companies. And that means that you're doing a great thing. You're doing great work. So for me, in terms of a resource, I would say it's not really, it's not an app. It's not it's not a workbook. It's not a podcast. It's actually just being able to be brave. You might think that you're not enough. You're more than enough. You are everything. So just take it, own it. People are usually incredibly generous and good spirited. And if you walk into a space actually, giving out that presence and that power and saying, hey, I love what you do and I think that we should do something great together, you will usually get that back tenfold. So for me, the resource would be just be brave. Go out, talk to somebody today, talk to a brand or a company today that you would just love to do something with, explore the possibilities and just go and do it.
Thank you. That's a really beautiful message to our listeners here. I'm feeling that in my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear it right now. And Therese just brought the key message. And a lot of times we talk ourselves out of opportunity when they present, right? And I think it's when we kind of go, no, I do have it. I do possess the traits, or our business can. Why not us, right? Like that's probably the question, instead of saying why
you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely.
And what if you did ask that question?
Yeah, how could things be different? So yes, that's the call to action. Go and ask someone for a conversation today, potential partnership, and then let myself and Therese know how that goes. I think that would be really, really cool. Final question for you, which is more a personal one, but we started this conversation off with just you talking about, well, before we hit record, you were talking about how you love getting up super early. That's your time for yourself, your presence. What's one, whether it's a routine, whether it's a practice, what's something that you like to do for your own mental well-being?
So right now it's about reformer Pilates. And what that is, obviously it's something that I find incredibly difficult. I'm a runner. I run fast, I sweat, it's cardio. To actually do reformer Pilates is incredibly difficult for me to be still and do small movements and, use my muscles in a different way. But the point of this is I always try to do something that's like super hard. And I try to do it because as a form of exercise, if I have to do something that's really hard and it's out of my comfort zone, in that hour, in that time, I cannot think about the 50 things that are on my to-do list. I can't think about, school kids and whatever. I just have to be present. And for me, it's almost my meditation. It's a time where I can just zone out of the world and be insignificant to anybody and everything, and just actually just center myself and my mind. And for me, exercise is actually about being strong in my body. And when I'm strong in my body, I feel strong in my mind. And just, but as I said, like I've also done art classes. Now, I'm not terribly good at art, but it actually forced me to stop and really concentrate on the task and not think about all the other things that I had to do in the world. So I would say find something super hard to do, a new exercise or a course or a language or something where you cannot concentrate on any other thing but the thing you're doing right now.
Amazing. I can definitely resonate with that, because I remember when I started sort of I was very fascinated and curious by everyone talking about meditation and go and meditate, and then I tried and sit down for half an hour and my butt would get sore and I'm like, I'm so bored, sometimes falling asleep. And then I was put on, someone had said to me, that's not the only form of meditation there is. There's actually, you can do movement, and you could do it, whether it's you're talking about Pilates. For me, it was dance. It was actually go and do salsa dancing, for 2 hours a night and have fun. And I'm so present, because you don't want to step on your partner's toes and have them kick you with their heels. I made that mistake before. And you can, for the ladies, there's dance workshops where it's like, they call it 5 rhythms. I don't know if you've come across that one before, Therese, but I know Newtown, they've got a class there, and they basically go in, and it was created by a woman who was I think she was a choreographer or something, but she also was a healer and a therapist, and she did her work in New York City, passed away about 10 years ago, but she created this thing called 5 rhythms, and it basically, the way it's designed is each so there's literally 5 different beats that play throughout the hour, and each beat is designed to bring out a different emotion, right? So as you're dancing, you're channeling anger, you're channeling love, you're channeling these different emotions, and it's a way to really access those different states within yourself, and then to bring them out through movement. And so that's a meditation, right? But I love that you're doing Pilates or reformer Pilates, and what you said there. Amazing. Thank you. All right, we're going to wrap up now. You've got a gift for our listeners here. You talked about the 100 plus different resources. So where can they grab that?
So if they go to theresetarlinton.com, I'm the only Therese Tarlinton in the world, so you should be able to find me. There's no G in my surname, which is, the mistake everybody makes. So just theresetarlinton.com. And if you go to that page, do / bought the book. There is actually a course there that takes you through, I've called it 103 ways to partner. But really, it's just a video series, 8 short videos that take you through and explain in detail all the things that you have in your business that you've probably forgotten about or didn't realize that you could use to actually contact another partner and start working with them. So, and I'm everywhere. As I said, I'm the only Therese Tarlinton in the world. If you type in that name for LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. I'm everywhere. So please connect. I love a good chat, and every person that I meet, either them or the next person or somebody that they know these are all great relationships that we can build and then recommend to other people to be great partners.
Fantastic. I've got it on the screen. Just head over to theresetarlinton.com. We'll share the links in the show notes, of course. So you can go over there. You can grab the book. You can also sign up for that free online training and get access to all those assets and amazing package that Therese put together to help you really grow your business through partnerships. Thank you so much, Therese, for joining us. The book is called Swap: Marketing Without Money. I just love seeing your journey and congrats again on the launch and having the book come out, because I think this is a really valuable asset for all small businesses.
Thank you. I mean, the more small businesses I can see, just, working with other people and really growing, that's the goal. So thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Amazing. So it's still sunny today. So any plans for the rest of today here in Sydney?
I'm actually going into the office today, which is a novel concept. So the office at CSR. So, I don't even get to walk around the block or anything at lunchtime. I'm going to be, in an office, a big glass office. But look, it'll be really great to actually catch up with people.
Yes.
Have a chat at the coffee maker. Have a chat in the lunchroom.
Love it. All right. So we'll have to do our own coffee catch up because we're both in Sydney, and it'll be nice to get collaborating as you do. Thank you everyone for listening. And if you're catching the replay, again, connect with Therese on all the socials and really grab that book and also the resources. Thank you again. And we'll see you again on the next episode.
Thanks, Anne.